Kind of like middle management over the last couple of weeks, academia is sort of an easy punching bag, and I really hate to pile on. You know, the way academia studies mankind, humans, how they do their work is great and it's important. But when it comes to entrepreneurialism and innovation, I think it's really wrong. We look at the past and we look at the institutions, the businesses themselves, and look at, sort of what has happened. And we break it down and then we reassemble it and aggregate it and call it a model and push it back out into the world as if entrepreneurs or business people can actually take that model and do something with it. And I really don't think that they can. I think it's done wrong. And I don't think they get the gist of what is innovation and entrepreneurialism. And that it comes down to our behavior, human behavior. Check out my rant for more. Hi, Brant Cooper here. I'm fortunate I get to travel around the world speaking with startup founders, investors, ecosystem developers. I've learned a lot in my travels. I've got some stories, and I have some thinking that I love to share. Welcome to Brant's Rant. Oh my gosh, it's such a beautiful day out here. What in the world do I have to rant about? Well, I'm sure I can think of something. I was reading a couple of different posts recently. One was on entrepreneurship, and one was on ambidextrous organizations, which is this concept for large organizations that they need to be able to both exploit and explore in different parts of their business in order to execute on their known markets, as well as being, on the lookout for future innovation. Again, I use scare quotes because these things are really not that well defined and not particularly useful. But in particular, these articles, what struck me was just how academic they were. And it starts getting me thinking about academic takes on things that happen in the real world, in real business, and society and economics and all these things. And I've ranted on this before, right? This idea that, I love this quote, all models are wrong, some are useful. And so really, academia is this central location. Their job is essentially to try to create models out of what's going on in the world, with the idea that if we can model it, then we can teach it and we can apply it and we can look forward using these processes that we've defined in order to have the desired outcomes that we have. In a lot of ways, it's the scientific method. And what's interesting, I guess, is that the social sciences really desperately want to be viewed as scientific. And again, I think I've talked about this a little bit in the past. I think that, economics is really one of the worst culprits of creating these models out of academia in order to help us look forward and work forward based upon models. And the models are wrong, and the models are often horrible. They don't actually reflect the real world. And so we create this learning from looking at the past and from history and analyzing the data, and we create these models that don't reflect reality, and we create policies based upon the models. And then, the other thing that we do then is that we look at metrics, we look at the data on how we're going to measure our progress, and those don't reflect reality either. Sometimes because they're too hard to come by the metrics, and other times I think because we're looking for data that reinforces our existing beliefs. And so oftentimes in the social sciences, rather than using the scientific method to cut through our bias, to be willing to invalidate our hypotheses, I think most of the social sciences fall into this trap often of confirming biases and using quasi scientific methods in order to reinforce those biases. And again, this is kind of where you get into conventional wisdom, and you get into the hierarchy and the nature of academia, uh, which reinforces uh, us acting in that way, in this biased, self-confirming way. That's how we get tenure. It's, we have to impress our colleagues, and we have to uh, advance based upon these publications, and I don't know, all of this stuff. I'm not an academic, and I've never been in academia, and so maybe I'm wrong. But when I step back and I view something as fundamental uh, as these articles that are about entrepreneurship, and articles about this incorrect notion of ambidextrous organizations, and the way they're written, and the whole purpose of them is seems to me to be to impress colleagues using big words without them actually ever serving their intended purpose or their supposed purpose. The article on entrepreneurship looks to the past, breaks down all of this sort of entrepreneurial activity and why people did X, and things that they're doing here, and then they reassemble all of those activities, and they give them all names, and they give them categories, and they create this framework based upon all of this past observed behavior, and then they kind of say, okay, this is the way forward, and they write these super complicated, weary articles on how to do entrepreneurship, and you're just sitting there going, this isn't how it works. This isn't how people live. This isn't how people work. This is not how entrepreneurial minded people think and act. And to me, it's particularly amusing because this entrepreneurialism behavior is often treated as if it's this, sort of black box that only some people are gifted with the ability to do this entrepreneurialism behavior. When in fact, all we're really talking about is creativity, and we're born with that creativity. And so, if anything, ironically, we drill it out of people. We drill it out of children based upon the way we parent, raise, and educate them. And primarily, I'm going to say educate them. But certainly parenting has something to do with it as well. But most parents naturally want the creativity in their kids, and they inspire the creativity. And then the moment they start hitting, middle school, and even now the late stages of elementary school and then high school, it's like over. It's like, forget about it. Do what you're told, learn how to be, memorize this stuff, think in these particular ways. And we drill out the creativity, which is the same thing as this entrepreneurialism. And the reason why I say it's ironic is because academia is trying to rediscover what is this entrepreneurialism, and yet it's the different layers of academia that actually is what sort of beats it out of human beings. So here we are in this world, this society that needs the independent thinking and needs the entrepreneurialism, and not only needs it in the startup world, but needs it in all of these institutions, needs it in large organizations, needs it in government, now needs it in education itself in order to reinvent it, in order to hold on to that creativity and inspire that creativity and keep that as a normal part of not only ourselves, but of society. So I've talked a number of times about how, the complexity of the world that we're in now breeds all sorts of uncertainty. And it's this creativity and this entrepreneurialism, how you deal with uncertainty. And in a nutshell, this entrepreneurialism is basically uh, I don't know an answer, so I need to go learn the answer, and then I need to go and create ideas on how to address any issues out there. And it's sort of this fundamental self-awareness plus creativity plus hustle that is sort of this entrepreneurialism that goes out and solves problems. And when you're in a world that has lots of turmoil and a lot of complexity and a lot of uncertainty, that's what we need, and we need more people to do it than ever. We don't need to carve up our society as people that are entrepreneurial and creative and those that are not, and everybody that's not needs to go off and do what they're told, just like the bulk of the 20th century. No, completely the opposite. Even the notion of continuous improvement requires some level of this entrepreneurialism. So continuous improvement is, say, looking at existing processes and always keeping in mind how we might improve a process. Hey, thanks for listening to Brant's Rant. If we're choosing capitalism here as a society, then let's make it work for a better world. If you'd like to join me as we redefine capitalism for the 21st century, go to beatcoop.co/D4A. Also, if you have a pressing issue that you're facing in your innovation group, your product group, your startup, and want to join me on video, see the link below. Subscribe, like, see you next time.